Fitness and nutrition expert Danielle Fermaro from Mighty Mama Nutrition and Fitness is here to share one of her favorite breakfast ideas that involves apples. Good morning, Danielle.
Good morning, Patrick. How are you today?
I am excellent. We're creeping up. Columbus Day weekend is this weekend, which is sort of the cue for everybody to head to their orchard. And I know I love going to the orchard, but I end up picking way too many apples. So I'm interested to see what type of recipe you've got for apples.
All right, so it's so funny you said that because I do that every single year. I go to buy the bags, and they're like, do you want 1 or 2 bags? And I do it every year. I come home with too many apples. I don't know what to do with them. And then I get this fear that they're going to go bad, and we're all like stuffing apples into our mouth as much as we can throughout the day. So to make that issue go away, we have to think of so many ways to make apples, but we all think apple pie. Right, Patrick? Is that like the first thing you think? Let's just make an apple pie, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you think that, but at the same time, do we really want to eat apple pie every single day? I mean, most of us could, but is it healthy? Probably not that much sugar every single day. So what I'm going to show you today is how to make a healthy apple pie pancake. Yeah, so we can have that apple pie taste, okay, but without the guilt. So the first thing I'm going to do, it's a 2-part process. One, I'm going to chop up some fresh apples. So I started chopping before you came on, Patrick. And I'm going to just start with the topping of the pancake. So fresh chopped apples, and I'm going to drizzle some avocado oil into my pan here on medium heat. And then I'm simply going to add my apples to the pan. Now this process is very simple. I am going to saute these apples on medium until they're just softened. So, of course, I'm going to add a little cinnamon because we have to season the apples. Now, I'm not putting any butter, Patrick, because we're going to keep this nice and healthy. I already have butter in the pancakes, but we don't need to have too much butter, so a little olive oil will be perfect. So these are just going to simmer on low for about 8 minutes until they're soft. Okay, so we can come back to these later, Patrick. I think that it's time we get into the actual pancake mix. What do you think? Are you ready for it?
I'm ready for that, but I got an apple question for you.
Ask away.
Are there specific types of apples that are good for, say, the pancakes or for the pie? I mean, you wouldn't want to use a Granny Smith, or is a Macintosh good or a Macone? Which apples are best for this?
It's such a great question. I personally love Apple Crisp, and then maybe a Gala apple or a Macintosh. But if you have, basically you want your red apples, but I love Apple Crisp because they have that honey, that sweetness, and it really, once it cooks, it's just to die for. But it all depends on what they have available when you go apple picking too. But I don't use green apples typically. However, honestly, you could pick any of the 2 apples of your choice. It really wouldn't, it's really up to you. So there's no right or wrong with that. But that's a great question.
Very good.
First, we're going to get into the batter part of this, all right? So first thing I have is a cup of a whole wheat white flour. You can also just use a whole wheat flour if you want. And then I grounded up some oats. So oat flour, all you have to do for oat flour, this is a 1/2 cup, is you just put it in the blender, some regular quick oats, and then you've got flour. So pretty cool stuff. A little salt, 3 tablespoons of baking powder, because this is what's going to make that batter rise, okay? And then I'm going to take a shortcut, Patrick. Can you guess what I have in my hand?
It looks like some sort of apple spice, right?
This is apple pie spice. So I
Good
really
guess.
kind of cheated here. Now, if you're like, where the heck do you find apple pie spice? You can find it online. But it's if you want to just do equal parts of cinnamon, nutmeg, some ground cloves, it's pretty much the same thing, but I love this. It's about a 1/2 teaspoon I put in there because it's like the perfect blend and it tastes just like apple pie. Okay, so here's your dry mixture. We are done with that. Let's put this aside. Let's start with the wet mixture now. So I have 4 tablespoons of ghee, or you could use a nice organic butter. Okay, and then I have 1 whipped egg. Put that in. I'm already getting hungry.
That makes 2 of us.
Vanilla. Do a little vanilla. Okay, about a 1/2 teaspoon or so. I've got almond milk, so we'll put 1.5 cups of almond milk. So if you notice, Patrick, I did the same amount of liquid and milk than I have in my batter with my flour. Okay, and then what's the last ingredient? I have two more ingredients, but what do you think this is?
Brown sugar, maybe?
No, we'll get to this in a second. That's a surprise ingredient. All right, lastly, I do put a little grade A maple syrup, just a little bit. I like these to be sweet. Okay, that's it. We're gonna combine these now. Okay, so there we go. How is that goodness all in there? So that's all set. Now, I'm going to stir this around. I have one more ingredient. You can't think of what the ingredient is, Patrick?
I can't.
Am I going to stump you today?
You are going to stump me today.
Oh, I love when I stump you. Okay, so it's fresh applesauce. So again, remember I said, oh gosh, how are we going to up all these apples? We have like so much stuff going on here. Like, how do we use all these apples? So what we're going to do is we're going to add applesauce. How do you make fresh applesauce? It's simple. You just steam the apples until they're soft, and then you put them in the blender, and boom, you're all set. Okay?
Nice.
So now if you're like, hey, Danielle, I don't know if I have time to do that, you can just use store-bought applesauce, okay?
Right.
We're going to put about a half a cup in. That's it. Mix it around. And then there's our batter. Okay, so the next phase, of course, will be to start pouring them and flipping them. And then, of course, I'll show you how to plate them with your topping. What do you think so far? Are you excited about this, Patrick, or what?
I am, Danielle. You always bring us great recipes, and I'm looking forward to coming back with you in just a few minutes and wrapping it up. So, folks, stay tuned. We're going to be back with Danielle in just a couple. We are back now in the kitchen with Danielle Formaro, fitness and nutrition expert from Mighty Mama Nutrition and Fitness, to finish up making our apple pie pancakes that we started earlier. Good morning again, Danielle.
Hello. I'm so excited about this next part because this is where it gets exciting.
You and me both, my friend. You and me both. Okay, so we took all of our wet ingredients, we took all of our dry ingredients, we put them in a bowl, we mixed them all together with a couple of secret ingredients. I'll give you credit for those. And now what do we do?
Okay, so now we have to pour. So I have a really nice bowl that has a little pourer on it. But if you don't, you could take a ladle and you could just simply ladle it out right on. But I'm going to cheat, and I put my batter in this little bowl. So I have a little trick when I pour my pancakes, Patrick. I count to 3. I go, ready? 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. It's the perfect size pancake. Okay, so we're going to do that all the way down here. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Okay, boom. Okay, so there you go. Now, how do you know when pancakes are ready? Do you know, Patrick, how do you know when to flip these little guys?
I don't, and that's always the toughest thing, is because you don't want to try and get the spatula under there too early, because then it's going to ooze. If you go too late, then they're burnt on the bottom. This is my hardest part.
Yeah, so my mom taught me this trick when I was a kid. She'd go, you have to wait until you see bubbles on the top of the pancake. So it's not just the bubbles, but the ends have to start to look like the ends are cooked. So right now, these aren't ready just yet. I would say about a minute and a half I would say about a minute and a half or so, or maybe even 2 minutes on one side, and then flip in about a minute and a half on the other side. So if you ever wanted to time it out, 2 minutes, you should be pretty safe to flip your pancakes. But right now I'm looking at these and they're bubbling. So while these are cooking, let's talk a little bit about apples and why they're so good for you. Do you know some, really great reasons why apples are good for you, Patrick?
Well, you can bribe your teacher, because that was the old way. Bring an apple to your teacher, and an apple a day keeps the doctor away, right?
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't like it? You know that little phrase, 1 apple a day keeps the doctor away?
Right.
And it's true. And I always tell my son that, and I give him an apple every single day with his breakfast. And actually, speaking of breakfast, these are so awesome because, in the morning when you're rushing, you're trying to get your kids to school, you're like, oh, what do I make them for breakfast? You can make these like on Sunday. You can refrigerate them and then put them in the microwave for literally not even a minute, and they taste just as good the next day. These will last a good 4 days for breakfast, like so easy for the kids. But going back into the nutrition benefits, okay, so see, these are ready to be flipped.
Wow.
They're nice and ready, and then you got to give it a quick little flip over. And check out my spatula; it's nice and wide. Get a good wide spatula.
I was just going to compliment you on that spatula. That's a beauty.
Isn't that a beauty? Don't be jealous now. I mean, we can still be friends.
Because you're right, Danielle. You want a bigger.
Back to what was that, Patrick?
You want the bigger spatula so you can kind of get the whole pancake under it.
Yeah, it's all about the spatula. I mean, we can't even be friends if you don't have the right spatula. That's what I've just decided. So back to apples really quick. Guys, they're super dense dose of nutrition. They have antioxidants, anti-inflammatory, soluble fiber, which is great for reducing risk of different diseases, great for gut health. So when you have a combination of food like that, you're talking about reduced risk of cancer, reduced risk of diabetes, improving even weight loss. They keep you full longer because of the fiber, and they give you a lot of energy because they're loaded with good carbohydrates. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with these apples. And apples are king when it comes to nutrition. So, these are just about ready. And of course, you know me, drum roll, because I've got the final product here. Don't you wish everything was so quick you could just pop it out and everything was ready? So we're about to plate these, Patrick. Okay, so these were just about ready. Like, it's been about a minute or so. These have been cooking on the other side. So now we're going to scoop these off. Do you remember like the cartoons back in the day? They called them flapjacks. Do you call them flapjacks or pancakes?
I call them pancakes, but I do know the term, and I have heard flapjacks. I don't know why it was ever called flapjacks, but
it was like totally like the Tom and Jerry days where they'd say flapjacks, right? We'll go way back now. Anyway, so here you go. How beautiful does this look? So remember those apples that were cooking on the pan? After about 8 minutes, the apples are soft, Patrick. And what I did just to give them that gooey texture is I put them in a dish and I added some grade A maple syrup. Okay, I'm going to put those right on top.
Oh my.
Look at that. Oh my God, Patrick, you're even more jealous now.
Wow,
forget the
look at
spatula.
that.
You want these. And now ready? Give me a drum roll. Whoa!
Oh my gosh.
And then boom!
Danielle,
Healthy
those are perfect.
apple pie pancakes all week long.
A big stack of pancakes to get any kid or family member going on their day during the fall.
Absolutely. So hopefully you've learned a healthy way to get rid of all those apples. You bought too many of them this year once again.
Fantastic. Danielle from our always fun having you on. Great pancake recipe. Good seeing you, my friend.
So good seeing you. Have a wonderful and delicious week, everybody.